Welcome to The Act of Coaching, the podcast from Act Leadership. We're a leadership and performance coach training company focused on developing exceptional leadership coaches for modern times. My name is Phil Askew, and each week on this show, I'll be joined by a member of our brilliant alumni, putting a voice to their very own hero's journey story. Our hope is that listening in to real-world stories of everyday people who have chosen coaching as a vocation will serve to demystify things and help you decide if this incredible vocation is something that calls to you too. So with that, let's meet this week's guest. So, really lovely to have you here, Jyllian. Really nice. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Of course, this is called The Act of Coaching, and it's the podcast where I get really curious about the backstories and the hero's journeys of the alumni of ACT Leadership. And so I suppose the very first thing that I get curious about with people when they come on this show is who they get a sense of, these are my people, these are the people I feel called to be in service of. And how do you get a sense that you support them? What is it about their predicament that you feel called to be in service of? And it's absolutely okay if you haven't nailed your niche yet, as it were, because it's an iterative thing. But do you have a sense of that?
I do. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. It's a topic that I'm passionate about. I love coaching, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot about that. Carving a niche is something that I have done. I have found, in terms of looking and going, where is the gap? Where is the need? My true passion is working with executives, helping executives lead with confidence, lead with authenticity. And that's either current executives, aspiring executives. The other passion that I have and where I do a lot of work is those who are in transition, really going to the next level of their career. So something like a mid-level manager who's moving to the next ranks and going into senior leadership positions. And so I've carved that out to very, very core passion areas for me, working with executives, leading with confidence and authenticity, and then helping people actually transition into that next level. I have found, even with my own transition, sometimes that's hard, and you get thrown into a situation because you're good at what you do and you're ready to transition, but that actual transition, like, what are the steps? How do I transition to that? And that's what speaks to me, and that's what calls me to do this coaching in that area.
So needed, isn't it? Those people, those future leaders in a way, people who are doing big things in the world. Oftentimes it can be so difficult to know how to do it. A lot of the times they're afraid to ask because it's, well, I've been given this position of authority in some way. Is it okay for me to ask for help now, or should I know everything? I'm really curious about, what do you see as the pain points of those people? So why would they seek a coach such as yourself? What are the pain points that they struggle with that they would go, do you know what? I think I want to find some help.
Sure. So even drawing on my own experiences and then my peers who I've talked to a lot about this particular area, moving to that next level is sometimes frightening. People sit back and they observe the actions of others and feel like, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I should do. This is what I'm supposed to do. But I think in that, some people lose their authenticity. And the reason why they got to that point anyway, where they're transitioning to that next level, is really about who they were, how they performed in the past, how they led in the past, what type of person, their own characteristics. So I see people a lot when they get to that point where they're transitioning, watching others and saying, this is how they did it. Or they go seek help from a mentor. And mentors are great. I'm a mentor, but at the same time, mentors are really great at giving guidance and saying, this is how I would do it. And then people go off and they do it exactly how their mentor said to do it. That's all fine, and it can yield great results. But wow, it's really powerful when people really understand their own values, their own boundaries, and what they bring to the table, and actually do it with authenticity. So my journey is, it's quite a journey, actually. So bear with me here.
Sure.
So I was born in England. I came to the United States when I was 7 years old. My parents both worked for the government, and we were in England, came back here to the United States. So I was transitioning schools, came back with my British accent, a lot of transition, throughout my years in school. And then in my professional life, I got to the point where I graduated from college and I stepped into a role of being a probation officer. First, I was supervising juveniles, and then I actually transitioned to supervising adults. And then eventually I landed a pretty awesome job with the United States government as a special agent. I'm like, wait, she's a coach. How she
Wow.
just I'll tell you a little bit about that.
This is fascinating. Yeah.
So basically, I worked as a special agent, all different disciplines of security. I was in personnel security, physical security, worked technical counterintelligence, worked a lot of really exciting things. I was able to collaborate with different agencies throughout the world. Great experience. And then eventually that led me to actually being elevated into the most senior ranks of the government, which in the US, we call that senior executive service. And so I was thrilled, great career, extremely successful. But in 2018, people would call me crazy, but in 2018, the agency I worked for, they actually reorganized. And established this organization called Workforce Development. And I was excited that there was an organization that was dedicated to and accountable for the development of careers of employees worldwide. And it spoke to me, it called my name. And so thought I was crazy, but I actually applied for the position. And I'm very grateful, forever grateful, because I was selected to lead that organization. That was something that was really core for me, is helping people develop their careers. I had been a mentor and guidance, and people tended to gravitate towards me for advice with their careers and such. And so when this position opened up, I said, I'm all in. And so it was really bittersweet for me because what it did is it basically ended my career as a special agent. So I turned in my credentials, which everyone's, oh, are you sure about this? And I was absolutely certain about it. Yes, turning in my credentials was tough, but what I now know is that it was the first step. Reflecting back, it was the first step to where I am today. And that's a little bit about my career and my background leading up into this space. And honestly, like helping people, like I said, really energizes me. And so the decision to actually take on coaching and go into the coaching program was pretty easy for me. And the coaches that I knew, the coaching program actually resided in the same organization that I was leading. And the coaches that I knew who had gone through the program, they were top notch. And so it wasn't a question for me about if I was going to go through coaching. It was more about, I love helping people. My goal was, how do I enhance my own ability to help people? How do I enhance my own leadership skills? I've got this wonderful program, top-notch coaches around me. I had been in leadership courses and had been coached myself along the way. And I always enjoyed the type of coaching and guidance that I received. So it really wasn't a question of if I was going to go down that route. It all spoke to me. And I immediately decided I was going to enroll in the next program and become a coach. It was core for me. It was important to me. And I knew that it would help me actually be a better leader and be able to mentor people, guide people, give better career guidance and such. So that's how I got to that point. And when I went through the program, I enjoyed it. It was transformative for me. And we can talk about that if you'd like, but it was transformative for me. And that's how I arrived to where I am. But that was a big step coming out of the security world, getting into this coaching, and I've loved it. And I have never came away from that.
Never look back. Yeah.
No.
That's amazing, isn't it? And not surprising. Like when I listen to you talk about that, I get a sense of you having this kind of natural ability to, I get a sense when I'm here present with you now, of safety. Like it feels like you hold the space and you walk with safety, I sense. And I don't know if that's what people picked up on you, but my sense was like lots of opportunities came your way and you escalated up the ranks. And what do you suppose? I know it might be strange to ask you, but what do you suppose those people who were in a position to elevate you up the ranks, as you said, what did they see in you that they thought, yeah?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things. I think trust first and foremost. I was definitely a person who, if you gave me something to do, I was true to my word. I would complete the task. I would ask for guidance if need be. But I was also very good at strategic planning as well. So building teams, bringing the right people in to build those teams was great. And I created an environment where people were psychologically safe to work in, where their voices were heard. I managed multiple teams that were very productive. And I think that was highly recognized as well. probably by other people before I even recognized that was something I did well because it was just something that I did. It was also
Mm,
really good about stakeholder management as well. So keeping people informed, bringing people into the process who needed to be part of the process, allowing them to part of the decision making process along the way. So I think those are all really big things that initially vaulted me to where I was, but also being able to connect with others and empower others. And they could do so in a trusting environment with me. I would have people just talk to me about all types of things personally, professionally, all types of things. I never broke their trust or their confidence. And
mm,
anytime that I needed to discuss something outside of the individual and myself or the team and myself, I always was really transparent about I need to talk about this with somebody, conflict
mm,
resolution, being able to manage a lot of different things. And I would always do so with their permission, but also asking them to help me guide what I could and couldn't say so they were comfortable with it. And I think people appreciated that. That was part of my values as well. When I talk about authenticity and having boundaries, it's always been very important to me to be able to empower people to feel like they could be their authentic selves in the workplace. And so that's why I think I moved into that. Had the trust of leadership above me, had the trust of the people and my teams, and then also my peers. I really
mm,
enjoyed working with my peers. And I'm not going to say everybody loved me, but at the same time, I was really true to my own values, stayed
mm.
authentic myself, and that's how I moved up.
Wow, yeah, and there was a word that kept coming up for me when you were talking, which was like integrity. I just get this
Mhm.
huge sense of
Absolutely.
integrity. Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Integrity is a massive one, isn't it, in coaching as well?
Yes.
Because we obviously don't divulge our clients' stuff
Right.
to anywhere else beyond the container of the coach and
Yes.
client. And so, of course, you're having that natural disposition of being able to hold people's content with deep integrity is massive. So,
Yes.
yeah, you sound like
Oh, thank
total
you.
legend. Yeah.
Thank you.
And wow, it's amazing journey, isn't it? We could take this in many directions. What was it that you did to explore coaching? So not everybody, people don't just necessarily fall into coaching. Maybe they do,
Mhm.
but some people come to coaching because they've had a sort of debilitating kind of life event that's happened that's propelled them into looking for solutions. Some people come because they're at a loss for their purpose and direction for what's next. And I know that you said you were in a fantastic role and all things were great for you in that position you were already in. So it wasn't like you were trying to move away from something and
Yeah.
I need a fresh outlook on things, but it
Right.
was more, it sounds like complementing what you're already doing naturally and well. So I'm just curious, what was it that had you sign up for the course and to dive into the process? Because it's
Yeah.
quite an undertaking, isn't it? The coach training.
It absolutely is. And like I said, it wasn't a matter of if I was going to go, it was when. And you're right, it was to complement what I was already doing. I had been
Mm,
around people who had gone through the program. And like I said, they were top notch coaches. And for me, it was really just about adding a different tool to what I had. I enjoyed being coached, and it was something that I knew I wanted to do. And it was all about adding it to my toolbox. When I actually went through the program, it
mm,
actually surfaced for me the challenges that I had just pushed aside, ideas, thoughts, a lot of different things that I had. And I really went into the class thinking, I want to learn how to be a coach. I've experienced coaches and I watch these top notch coaches do their job, and I want to do that as well. But it was really transformative. We had to use real life examples as part of
mhm.
our coaching program. And so in these real life examples, of course, I had my little list. I'm like, okay, here are my three topics that I'm going to cover. But those I not only had prepared, I'm like, this is what I want to get out of someone coaching me.
Mm,
And so in doing that, it was a really powerful, transformative experience for me because thoughts, ideas, emotions, many, many things that I had kind of pushed those aside in order to move forward. And so that's how I was operating was just I move forward, keep moving, just whatever you do, keep moving forward. But I
yeah.
think learning how to coach and the art of coaching helped slow me down. And there were things during the coaching program that were tapped into. And I thought, wow, I didn't even know I had that idea. I
Mm,
didn't even know that I had that thought process, right? But it helped me slow down so much so that it became a very transformative experience for me. And I can't remember exactly what we were talking about or what the topic was, but I remember there was an emotion that was touched for me in a very odd time during that coaching. But it was powerful questions that were asked that allowed me to really explore the journey that I was on. So, what it did for me personally was enabled me to make these giant steps with confidence, look at things with such a different perspective. I think it opened me up to hearing from other people as well about their perspectives to even make it a bigger step to
Mm.
move things forward. And so it really was a transformative experience for me. And I bought into not only just like having it in my toolbox, but wow, I worked through a lot of different things as part of the coaching program and such a
Mm.
huge advocate for it. And I still work with a coach today. So.
Now I'm fascinated by, because I was like, oh, when she said that, I was like, that's
Mm.
really interesting. What did you discover when you slowed down? What came up to meet you, as it were?
Yeah, that's such a great way to ask that question. What I recognized about myself and then learning how to coach others is you have a goal and you set your sights on their goal and you just go. Or at least for me, I just went. And I didn't, a friend of mine recently said, "Oh, everything's going to work out for you. You've always been very fearless." And that's been a trait that I've enjoyed about myself is that I was fearless. But what I realized about myself and like almost every topic, like I said, I had my list of 3 topics and then
Mm.
we'd have to come up with 3 more. And I was, oh, I'm running out of topics. Mostly because it was like, I don't know that I want to talk about these things in front of everybody. But I
Mm.
did. What I found though is that, yes, I would have these goals and I would race towards them. And it was really about accomplishing a task to get to the goal. And in slowing myself, I didn't have that realization before that, but in being coached and really tapping into the thoughts, the ideas, and the emotions that I had, it did cause me to slow down, not only professionally, but personally, to understand, to be quiet and hear what was being offered so that when you met the goal, it was even more dynamic and better than I had ever planned for it to be because I was able to take in different ideas, perspectives, tap into my own creativity when I slowed down. So it was truly transformative.
Mm. That's amazing. And it's interesting, isn't it? How a lot of people are celebrated, and we're celebrated at school as well by knowing the right answers and putting your
Mhm.
hand up fastest, being first.
Yes.
And I often sort of call it like the metaphor of like building your right arm. You've got all these muscles and
Yeah.
biceps on that, and you do it really well. And oftentimes we haven't done the work in the left arm. So when we start training to be a coach, it's more about the power in coaching is holding a being space for the clients, isn't it? As in, like,
It is.
how safe can you create that space and how well can you listen? And that is being a great coach rather than
Yeah.
taking people somewhere necessarily. And because clients, of course, take themselves to the places that they need to go and discover what they need to
Yeah.
discover. So it's really
Mhm.
interesting. How did you find that sort of polarity? Or maybe it wasn't polarity for you, though. How did you find that? Because I sense that you hold space, like I was saying earlier, really easily, naturally. Was it what was it like? So from going from goals, like I'm going to achieve, I've got my top 3 things. What was it like from doing that to actually allowing yourself to sit in the space of not knowing with your clients and with yourself?
It's different. It is very different because just like you said, we're rewarded for putting our hands up fast. And in the business world, that's delivering quickly,
Yeah, for
um,
sure.
delivering the best product. That's what you get rewarded on. That's how you get recognized. Rewards come that way. If you're a little slower, it's, oh, what's going on with that person?
Mhm.
And so I think that actually helped me. It was different. It was something I personally had to get used to.
Mm.
But because it was such a transformative journey for me, I really bought into that and I value having that space such that I protected it for myself and I protected that space for other people as well around me who would quickly go and I'd see it. I was able to recognize it really quick and say, okay, wait a minute, slow down for a minute. What are some other things that you can do in this space to make it even better in the back end? If I needed to buy my leadership position, if I needed to buy time for them, I would absolutely buy the time that they needed in order to produce an even better product. And so it became an area that, yes, it was different for me, but I enjoyed being in that space and being able to think and actually be true to myself and true to my
Mhm.
own values. Having bought into the ability to have that, I knew what I was producing as a result of being in that space was much better than before. And I was happy with what I was doing before, but it was much better. And so it really became very core for me to protect it for other people as well around me.
Mm. Oftentimes, once we experience it ourselves and we see the value in it and get the felt sense of it, it's, oh, wow, that's the water I
Yeah.
swim in. And that's what I want to create for my clients too, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
I'm just curious because, of course, you trained with ACT leadership. The course has many fantastic and fascinating and insightful tools in amongst it. Is there anything that stands out for you by way of tools that you experienced or
Mm.
coaching that you received? Like, oh, wow, that's a really good tool that I come back to today quite frequently.
Yes. Well, there's so many of them. But I will say I do use metaphors a lot with my clients. I find that when you have an idea, a thought, something that is a perceived obstacle, actually giving it a name, comparing it to using metaphors to compare it with something, personifying whatever that is really powerful because then people could actually see it, almost visually see it. And it becomes something that they can succeed in spite of that perceived obstacle. And so when you name it, when you give it a metaphor, when you personify it, it's definitely something that people can start to see it in a new light. People can start to have a different perspective and build ways to get around that obstacle in order to succeed. And so I do find that is something that I use a lot with my clients because I do, again, whether they put it on the shelf, they climb over it, they knock through it, whatever the case may be, it's something that they can almost tangibly feel. And it helps them overcome and succeed in spite of whatever that perceived obstacle is. So I do use that a lot.
Yeah, that's a great one, isn't it? And I think if
Mhm.
you're visual as well, or you're sensory, like we're all sensory, but some
Yes.
people love the channel of visualization and just seeing things. And metaphor, I think, is so powerful because particularly when it's a difficult situation for a client or something that's very close to them, oftentimes if we create a metaphor or ask them to create a metaphor, so what's it like? It's like being on a boat on the choppy waters moving across the sea. It's much easier to describe and identify it when it's not
Right.
quite so close. And a metaphor does that so well, doesn't it? It's over there.
Yes, it really does. And it helps
Mm,
with sustainment as well. So as that thing,
mm,
continues to crop up, helping clients move into a point where they constantly know what to do when that perceived obstacle shows up, then they can sustain their momentum and make progress. And so I use it in both ways. And it's something that
very
works for
cool.
me. And I know I've seen it very successful with my clients as well.
And often at the beginning, it can be quite hard to know what's it like,
Mhm.
client. Where it's like a football? No, it's more like a rocket. And there's, we're getting mix up of metaphors here. But I think that
Yes.
the longer you are a coach, you probably found this, the more you're able to help them out sometimes, throw it out there, the metaphor, say,
Yes.
I don't know, what I'm hearing is this. Yeah.
Yes.
But at first, it
Absolutely.
can be a bit overwhelming, can't it? It's like, what is it like? I
Okay.
don't know.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
people say, "Oh, a metaphor. Oh, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know." But yes, it is powerful.
Yeah, amazing. So one thing, like leading on from the training and leading on from, so you've done the training, you've got all these tools and skills and hours under your belt as well now. I'm
Yes.
wondering how it shows up in your life now, in the work that you do now. I know you said you coach with those people that you mentioned at the beginning, which is fabulous. But I'm also wondering, how does it show up in your personal life too? Because of course, this
Sure.
is a modality that we take on board, and it's almost like you can't park it at the front door and say, "Okay, I'm not a coach anymore," or "I don't have these skills anymore." So I'm wondering how it shows up in your personal life.
Yeah, it's such a great question because I think as a coach, I never shut it off. It's so powerful to be able to coach people that it's not something that you can just turn on and turn off. And so in my personal life, I think I'm a much better listener.
Mhm,
I'm better in my relationships, whether that's with my husband, with my kids, with my family members, with my friends, because I do listen and I listen more intently in an effort to understand. And I ask questions to understand that I probably wouldn't have asked before. We're not always on the same page as our spouses and I've got teenagers. I'm not on the same page with
mhm,
them a lot, but it does help me in my personal life understand what's really going on with the roots or the core of whatever it is that they're experiencing. And then I can
mm,
either help or I can just tap into their creativity and say, "What are you going to do about that?"
mm,
Which with my teens, that's a really good question sometimes. And they're like, "Oh, frustrated about this," and I'm like, "What's a different perspective that you can have on that?
mm,
How can this help you?"
mm,
'Cause you never really turn, at least me, I never really just turn it off. I just find it helpful in my
mm.
personal life to have those good, solid relationships and help people actually move through what they're moving through. So it definitely shows up. I don't turn it off. Even with friends, I'm just a better listener and I think just a better friend, partner, all of the above, better mom, just
Mm.
because it's a different type. shows up differently than in my professional, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it's still there. It's still there, and
And
it's definitely helpful.
did they notice a difference after you'd done your training? Because I remember some friends, there was a couple of friends who didn't understand what coaching was when I first trained to be a
Oh,
coach, 2008. And they were like, "What's that? What's happened? Are you coaching me? What is this?" Did you get friends and family members?
I did. I did
Mm.
a couple of times, especially from my husband, who'll say, "Don't try to coach me here." And I'm like, "Well,
Yeah.
I can't help
Don't
it.
try to
So,
coach me.
like, let's go." But yeah, just a few were kind of like, is that what you're
Mhm.
doing? Are you coaching me?" And I just went with them like, "Yes." And how's it working out for you?
Follow up with
So
another coaching question. I like it.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And so yeah, I was really transparent about, yes, I've learned something new. I really enjoy it, and I think it'll help you, help me. So here's where we are. But people definitely notice.
That's amazing. Sounds like it was
Yep.
accepted, though. It wasn't kind of,
It
"What's
was.
this? What's going on here?" Yeah.
It was.
Mm.
So I've got a hype team around me, pretty supportive family,
Nice.
and kids, and so it was accepted, and had a lot of fun along the way.
That's
And
cool.
sometimes I'd have to preempt with, "Okay, I'm coaching you now,"
Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah,
Put the hat
pretty
on,
well
yeah?
accepted.
Coaching hat.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah. Oftentimes we can do that, can't we? We're framing it. Right. So, is it okay if I sort of coach with you at the moment just to see if we can get some clarity for you? Yeah, sure. At least that way they can
right,
say yes, no, or counter offer, or no, no, no,
right.
let's just have a coffee. All
Yes,
right.
exactly.
So, moving into the end of this, it's been a really fascinating conversation. I think I would love to cast a magic wand into the future, if you will, and just imagine, like, you project into the future, like maybe 5 years down the line. Where do you
5 years.
perceive yourself? Yeah. What's your big dream for 5 years down the line for you and coaching?
Gosh, I'm really excited about where I am now, and I'm very excited about my future. I've been using my coaching in previous positions. Now I've launched this new business. It started in 2020. God had a plan for me. I didn't realize it at the time, but I started this business in 2020 that I'm just really now launching. And so I'm the CEO and founder of ISO Coaching and Consulting LLC. And the ISO really stands for in spite of. So, one of the things that I always would tell people is succeed in spite of all the perceived obstacles. Or people would say, my manager's not present or my leader's not present. I'm like, lead in spite of. And so, when it came time to actually name my business, I went ahead and went with ISO for in spite of Coaching and Consulting LLC. The reason why I bring that up is because that's where I am now. Part of, and it's a little bit of a funny story behind this, but part of naming my business, a year from now, I will have met Anderson Cooper, most well known for his time at CNN. So within the next year, that's one of my goals is I'm going to meet Anderson Cooper because my coach said to me, if you're in front of the media or journalists or something like that, who would that person be? And how would you want him to refer to your company? It was Anderson Cooper for me, just a very humble, authentic journalist out there who I just admire. And so I will have met Anderson Cooper. And when I think about that, like in 5 years from now, we're on a first name basis, we're sitting around, but really, I've had just such tremendous opportunities in my career. Initially with the government, like I said, I was collaborative all over the world with different governments, had elevated it to different levels. And then I transitioned. I worked at Amazon for a couple of years and I had a little bit of a bigger, stage there where I had the freedom to actually educate the world and kind of touch the world in different ways. So if you go in and Google my name, so to speak, lots of different articles and such will pop up. So I had the freedom to be able to talk and do that. But 5 years from now, I'm excited about what that looks like because I just have such passion in this area and I feel like the world is my stage. And
Mm.
having each step of the way go into just a bigger and better, whether that's one person at a time, small audiences, large audiences, being able to help people understand their values, understand their boundaries, being able to talk to all these different audiences about leadership and how to enhance your leadership, how to transition, whether that's personally, professionally. I'm on stage. I am pretty well known out there. That's my goal in 5 years. Right now, I'm coaching, I'm consulting. I'll be doing some teaching in this area, teaching people how to become more coach like leaders. I want the big stage. So I feel like the world is going to be my stage, and that's where I'll be in 5 years with lots of people around me. I've got my hype team, and that's what my vision is. I will undoubtedly be making adjustments along the way. in order to get that, I've got a lot to offer and I'm going to go after it. I want to help
Wow.
people, and that's what energizes me.
I love it.
So
I actually see you arriving there in 3 years. Let's say 3 years.
I'll take 3 years. I'll take 3
Yeah,
years.
it's not a challenge, but I sense that it won't be a challenge for you. You know, you're there already. Yeah, I can
Well,
see it.
thank
It's
you.
just, yeah, incredible. Okay.
Thank you.
And Jyllian, very final thing, where can people find you on social media?
Yep. So I'm on LinkedIn. It's just LinkedIn.com, then Jyllian Clarke, first and last
Mhm.
name. I'm on LinkedIn. I also am on Instagram. So it's ISO coaching _consulting. And then I'm on Facebook as well, although not as active these days on Facebook, but same thing, ISO Coaching and Consulting LC. Follow me,
Totally.
all of those things.
I make up that if we just Google you as well, we come across you pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, exactly. One of probably few
Mm.
JYLLIANs out there too.
Yeah,
So
definitely. I
mhm,
noticed that too. That spelling's really
yes.
nice, really
Yep.
different.
So you can find me. I'm easy to find now.
Okay. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me. This has been
yeah.
so fun. Thanks for
Yeah.
giving me the opportunity to share my story and my big quest with you. And thanks for the questions, the powerful questions.
Yeah, you're most welcome. It's been a real pleasure. All right, then.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Thank you.
If you'd like to train to be a professional coach, why don't you check out actleader.com. That's www.actleader.com. On our website, we have a ton of information that can really help you get clarity on the exact right course for you. We also have articles that really go into detail about the different aspects of coaching, how to apply it, and why it's a wonderful thing. Look forward to seeing you soon.